Let's talk about this week in the markets. It looks like it's going to start off on a decline day, shall we say.
Well, don't forget that Asia in the recent past has been sort of leading the other markets. So it wasn't necessarily the case like you used to have. Whenever Wall Street was down, Asia would open down almost inevitably. We've seen over the last couple of months actually that Asia sometimes has actually been leading the Wall Street market. So I'm not entirely sure that today you will see that ominous decline that you're talking about.
Now you sound very pessimistic compared to, I guess, what other fund managers are doing on the markets. You know, I guess the old age adage where you sell in May, you go away seems to be, I guess, taking hold this year.
Yeah, that's true. We are looking for a summer lull in the markets in Asia here. I don't think we need to be very, very afraid of big drops. I mean, what you've just shown, that picture, it looks like 5%. Yeah, well, that's par for the course in Asia. It happens a lot. So it's just been that against the background of the U.S. Going into some sort of correction, then Asian markets will probably not perform. On the other hand, you have the tightening going on in many Asian markets. And we've actually been a little bit taken by surprise at how tight also the Hong Kong liquidity has become. And at the same time, you see a lot of IPO activity. I hear even today Manchester United wanted to come to the market here. So people are getting a bit of IPO indigestion right now here in Hong Kong. And at the same time, liquidity is already getting a bit tighter and mortgage rates are going up. So the feel-good factor is missing right now. We think it will return, but just for the next couple of months, we'll probably move a little bit sideways.
Well, you know, we heard from Dr. Doom, Nouriel Roubini in Singapore. Yes, he's also so pessimistic most of the time, but he was talking about a perfect storm converging in 2013, where you have slow growth in Japan, you still have debt issues in Europe and also in the U.S. as well, and you have China possibly facing a hard landing with too much, he says, investment going into infrastructure, fixed assets, and you can't keep doling out that much in loans.
Yeah, well, I don't know so much about what's going to happen in US and Europe. Of course, it looks pretty dire there from a debt point of view. Hence, you also see a lot of flows coming into Asia, and I think that will stay the game to play, that people will continue to move money into Asia. Then at the same time, the question about what's going on in China. I mean, I've been covering China for 15 years now, and there's always been this issue. Yeah, they're over-investing, they're doing too much of it, and then they grow a number of years 8 to 10% again, and then suddenly this 30% overcapacity is gone.
So you don't think there's going to be a hard landing in China then?
No, there doesn't necessarily need to be a hard landing. Of course, the government has been trying to push that economy from investments to consumption for a very long time and has not succeeded very much yet. But that's still the major game plan. Consumption will take over from investments. Okay,
well, let's talk about what's happening across the rest of the Asia-Pac, because correct me if I'm wrong, because we checked Robeco's Asia-Pac performance so far in the year. Japan, your holdings in Japan are down 40%, is that correct?
Holdings in Japan? No, it's not that bad. It's probably about 10%.
Down 10%. Yeah, when are we going to see the recovery in Japan after the earthquake?
Yeah, after the earthquake, of course, what we've always been waiting for in Japan is for domestic investor interest to return to that market. Foreigners have been actually picking up shares after the earthquake quite a bit because they look very cheap, and they are very cheap because the recovery from the earthquake has actually been quite swift, with the exception maybe of some of the automobile sector where there are still some problems. But for instance, in the tech sector, the recovery from the earthquake has been very, very swift. So the impact on earnings is sort of a slight dip, but then the recovery next year will be even faster. So it doesn't look that bad in terms of earnings outlook for Japan. What you've seen is that the market's gone down back to the lower end of its trading range, and we expect it to stay in that trading range. But the fact that you're in the lower end of the trading range, of course, gives you a little bit of upside.
Okay, now, Arnout, you're saying that you can still make money in the markets this year. How much money do you think as a whole, I guess, for the MSCI itself?
That's too hard a question.
Oh, come on, you can answer it.
So, yeah, we are down, what, 5 to 10% in most markets now for the year. So that means that you'll need to recover at least 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't see that happen for the next 3 months or so. So it should all come towards the back end of the year. And then you'll make a little bit of money. But
so like 5%,
from here,
single digits probably. All right, so it's probably going to be sideways trading for the year then. Thank you, Arnout, for joining us this morning. Hopefully you survived the typhoon thunderstorms we got here in the city on Sunday. Yeah, they were intense. All right, thank you for that, Arnout Van Rijn of Robeco.